hello, good afternoon and welcome along to Matchday Live here on Fox's Hub with me, Dan Bates, Jerry Taggart and Simon Grayson, two former Leicester City defenders. Join me in the studio as we preview Leicester's Premier League clash away at Ipswich. Of course, Leicester and Ipswich rivals, weren't they, last season, as they both bid for promotion back to the Premier League. And here we are, Leicester looking now to make it 3 wins from their last 4 games in the Premier League. You can see them go 8 clear of today's opposition, Ipswich, if they do get that victory. Right, before we do team news and see what we've got coming up, let's introduce the pair of you. Firstly, obviously, Simon, great to have you back along with us. I know you've done a podcast that'll be coming out at some point next year, but to have you back on the sofa is great. How are you getting on? What are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, good. Great to see you all again. I've been in India for 18 months coaching until December, then I came back, and since then really it's been sort of spending some family time, watching games, playing a bit of golf, quite a lot of golf to be fair, and just enjoying life at this moment in time, waiting to go back to work at some point. I've had a couple of offers, but not the ones that I wanted to choose to go back into at this moment in time, but the fire in my belly is still there to go back into managing. I've got, I think, about 800 games now, so it'd be nice to get a few more and see where it takes me. But it's nice to be here today. Yeah,
it's nice to sit next to Jerry Taggart. You can't do that in a dugout.
Not anymore, no.
Not anymore.
Is that a thing? Is that one of your goals, is to try and get the 1,000 games as a manager?
It would be nice if you could do that,
no,
because
absolutely.
It's quite a selective group. I'm not sure how many coaches have done it, managers have done it. It would be a real nice to be able to do that. So a couple of hundred away, so
fingers crossed.
Let's wait and see what happens.
Yeah, well, you can dissect the team news for us in just a moment, Simon. We've got plenty coming up during Matchday Live as we build up to kick off, of course, at 3 o'clock down at Portman Road. We will start by taking a look back at that game on Wednesday. Very topsy-turvy Carabao Cup clash, wasn't it? The Foxes eventually bowing out in the 4th round. We'll hear from manager Steve Cooper, previewing the game, of course, with the Tractor Boys today, as well as hearing from Wilfred Ndidi, the Leicester City midfielder, who's been chatting ahead of this one. Right, let's get all of today's team news then. Firstly, starting, of course, with Steve Cooper's side, Leicester City. This is how they line up. Obviously, a lot of changes from that Carabao Cup game in the week. Interestingly, James Justin drops to the bench, so Ricardo retains his place. He started, of course, against Forest in the last league fixture. Christensen returns from injury as well. So it's Hermansen in goal, Christensen, Fast, Vestergaard in central defence, as well as Ricardo. So a bit of a change back 4 to what we're used to seeing. Winkson and Ndidi, though, are the two holding midfielders, with Mavididi, Buenanote and Abdul Fatawu supporting Jamie Vardy. A very strong attacking-looking front for the Foxes. On the bench, Danny Ward, James Justin, Connor Cody, Caleb Okoli, Bilal El Khanous, Jordan Ayew, Oliver Skip, Bouba Samare and Casey McAteer, who makes the bench again for the Foxes. Right, Ipswich Town then under Kieran McKenna, still looking for their first win as they have returned to the Premier League. They've got Muric in goal. He made a big mistake as Brentford won last week in dramatic circumstances. Ipswich were 2-0 up in that game, eventually lost in the last minute 4-3. They've got Leif Davis, Burgess, O'Shea and Johnson. He was a big doubt for this one. He is in, though, at right back. Morsey and Calvin Phillips are the two holding midfielders. Similar formation to the Foxes. They've got Sammy Smodics, of course, the Championship top scorer last season. Connor Chaplin and Amari Hutchinson all supporting Liam Delap up front. No player under the age of 21 has scored as many goals this season as Liam Delap, so he certainly is one to look out for. They're both the teams then. We'll start with Leicester, of course. Quite an attacking looking lineup, isn't it? And particularly you can concentrate on that front 4. Very exciting.
Well, it is, and I think what Steve's probably done is the team, more or less, that front 4 has picked itself anyway for the last few weeks, where there's been plenty of goals in the team, and they'll look at Ipswich, his team in general, that they're not being a team that have kept too many clean sheets, and they'll be looking if they can get the first goal and take the game to them. Got a great chance to win the game. Ipswich, to be fair to them, have been decent over the last few weeks in terms of number of goals they've scored as well, which is maybe why Steve looked at the defensive back four, that he's changed it around a little bit, but the front four is really exciting, and I think will cause a lot of problems for Ipswich today.
Yeah, I think, you know, both teams have conceded a lot of goals so far this season. But the one on the plus side, Leicester have scored, I think it's 3-4 more goals, something like that, there than Ipswich. Even though they've got 9 goals, Ipswich, this season. Leicester have got 13, I think. Mm-hmm. So you're going into this game thinking that both teams are going to concede because of the stats that I've shown. They've conceded 20, Leicester conceded 17. So, you know, both teams have got to find a way, well, as far as Leicester concerned, of not conceding the soft goals that we've seen in the last few games and dealing with those kind of big situations where they're coming under pressure. If they can do that, you can always see Leicester scoring because the front four have been pretty decent, you have to say, in recent times. In
terms of the defensive, you've seen Leicester a lot more than I have, to be fair, Jerry. In terms of the partnership of the centre-backs, which is probably your preferred one out of the two?
Well,
out the selection problem that Steve's got.
I was going to mention, you know, like Vestergaard, this is the first start for him in the league.
Since Fulham.
Since Fulham, sorry, yeah. So, and last season, they were the two centre-halves in the league that, you know, took Leicester over the line. So they'll have a good understanding. Young Okoli's come in, you know, big physical presence, done well, he's quick, he's strong. You know, he's done pretty well in all honesty. But this is a more settled centre-half partnership, I would say. They know each other's game pretty well.
Well, it's understanding partnerships, isn't it? As
Absolutely.
Well, right the way the pitch, whether it's a number 10 linking with a number 9 or two centre-backs, knowing the full-backs as well. Ricardo, Vestergaard have played a lot of football together, so hopefully it's the ingredients and why Steve's gone back to probably the lads that he knows that have been there and done it before, and he needs a clean sheet.
I would say so. You know, they're both very experienced players, and in particular Vestergaard. And he's good on the ball. You know, he's got really good usage of the ball when it's at his feet. But obviously, Okoli brings that more physical, got more pace. But in recent games, I've been watching, you know, Fass and Okoli play together. And Fass, in fairness to him, which is really good, has been trying to cajole Okoli into the right areas, into the right positions, say to put on a bit of cover. And it's been a bit of a struggle for Okoli at times to understand that. Maybe that's because of where he's come from, Italian football. You're told to do a job, a man-to-man job on a centre forward. You don't worry too much about covering. You just deal with that threat as it appears to you. Whereas obviously in England, as you've just rightly said, you know, it's all about your partnerships with your other centre half and then with your full-backs.
And sometimes when you've got like Faz who's trying to get Okoli to learn on the job as such, that maybe that sort of takes away his concentration and distracts him a little bit, and maybe he's made a few mistakes. We look at Wood's third goal, or the Forest third goal last week, that he should have dealt with that a lot better between the pair of them, but really he should have taken responsibility, shouldn't he? So maybe it might just work that Vestergaard coming in helps him along the way as well. Yeah,
final point on the back four for now, Jerry. Do you see Ricardo stepping into midfield when Leicester have the ball?
I do. We've seen it the other night. When was it? The other night. Forest, that was it. So he did exactly that and went in alongside, I think it was it Winks or Skip?
Yeah, Winks. Yeah.
Winks, it was Winks against Forest. So they actually played that way. It was a bit of a throwback to Enzo Maresca last season in the Championship, where Ricardo was stepping into that to make a two-man holding midfield up alongside Winks. I don't expect that to change. You know, they'll know everything about Ipswich. Obviously, they came up together. Funnily enough, though, you've just mentioned Liam Delap, and he scored the winning goal when he was at Hull against Leicester in the Championship here at King Power, which led to their first defeat at home last season. So, I mean, is he a bit of a bogey player for Leicester City?
Let's hope that's not the case today, by the way.
Let's hope it's not. And obviously, Smodics as well, we know from Blackburn last season, is a very capable player.
3 goals against Leicester last season.
Exactly, and another game here where he produced the goods.
Yeah, which actually kept Blackburn up. Those 2 goals
that
he scored here on the final day, didn't it? Leicester distracted somewhat by knowing they were lifting the trophy that day. Weren't able to get to 100 points. It doesn't matter. We're sat here in the Premier League. And at the moment, as I said at the top of the show, a chance to go 8 clear. They're 5 clear currently of Ipswich. If they can get that win or avoid a defeat, it just keeps that gap, doesn't it? It keeps that buffer to one of your fellow newly promoted teams.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the fixtures as well, the other 4 teams around Leicester and Ipswich are all playing each other. I think Southampton play Everton and Wolves play Palace. So it's vital that Leicester don't get beat today. I know that might sound a little bit pessimistic, but you would take a draw as long as Ipswich don't win. Ideally, get the 3 points and get that gap away from a few of the teams in around them. But certainly don't need to lose a game because Ipswich closed the gap and extra pressure comes on, especially after the Forest game, which was a disappointing result, and the way they conceded the goal. So at the very least, you come away from Portman Road with a point, and you move on to the next game.
Yeah, it's a massive game, for more than one reason. Obviously, the potential of the points differential if Leicester win it, like you say. Larry's just mentioned the other 4 teams, or the other 4 games as well. They're all playing each other at the bottom. But yeah, it's a big, big game. And they've got to put the Forest game behind them, because even though they went into the Forest game with a good deal of confidence and a good deal of momentum after them, on their backs, and coming out the other side with a disappointing result, they have to go into this game with confidence. Ipswich are a team that Leicester would be looking at and thinking, yeah, listen, if we play to our best, then we can surely get something out of this game.
The thing about it as well, if Leicester win today, the extra 3 points gets them close to teams like I think
they'd
go
leapfrog Man United.
Man United, close to West Ham,
Bournemouth, Fulham, depending what happens.
So all of a sudden, you're not looking at the bottom 3 to a certain degree. You're looking a little bit higher, and it looks a lot more positive from every supporter's angle and all the playing and the management staff. So the 3 points today is massive. But again, as I repeated earlier, that at least don't get beat to a team like Ipswich today, because that could be the worst case, the worst situation.
Yeah, I guess at the start of the season, Jerry, everyone will probably have looked at this 4-game run that Leicester had and thought there's a chance to pick up fixtures there, points rather, in those fixtures. Bournemouth at home, they won that. Southampton away, they won in dramatic circumstances. Obviously, Forest was a disappointment just over a week ago. Following into this one, again, it's a big if, but if they can get the win today, 9 from 12, they would have been very happy with that.
Absolutely. And, going back to the Forest game, Forest are a good side. I was really impressed with Forest. There are no mugs at all.
Well, they're 7th.
And that will be where they finish round and about, going off that performance. So you've got to give them credit. And Nuno, for the ways, the organisation of the team. Really, I thought they were spot on the night. But yeah, going back to your point, 9 from 12, that is a good return. Even though you're thinking, we could have got something out of the Forest game, they were a good team. The other 2 games plus this today, 9 from 12 looks very, very good.
And look, any coach or any manager, if you can get a return of 9 points out of 12, where you're near the bottom, the middle of the division, or at the top end, you will take that all day long. Yeah. So again, it's this is the back end of a group of fixtures that the points tally, everybody thought we could get quite a lot of points, and then obviously moving on to the Man United game next week, and then the international weekend comes along. So yeah, today is a big way of trying to get the last 2 games disappointment out the way, move on to Manchester United, who are still probably in a little bit of turmoil. The new manager isn't going to be in, but we'll focus on today's game rather than next week's game first.
Yeah, this game, of course, with Ipswich is sandwiched between 2 trips to Old Trafford. As Simon just rightly said there, the Foxes play, it'll still be Ruud van Nistelrooy's Manchester United in just over a week. That's who they played, of course, in midweek in the Carabao Cup, which ultimately ended in defeat.
Martinez has dropped one onto the right boot of Garnacho, coming in from the left side. He's come to the edge of the area. Casemiro, urged to shoot! What a strike that is! Posted snap, top right corner of the goal. Was given the space, was invited to shoot, and my word, it's a stunner that has got Old Trafford on their feet. Nottingham Forest, James Justin has played every minute in the Premier League this season. Darlow is onside, and he squared it to Garnacho, who fires it into the net from inside the 6-yard area. Well, Darlow was in so much space on this near side that we expected the flag to be raised. As it was, onside, and the time to pick out the pass across the 6-yard area. Leicester with a chance to cross from the right. Deckard over Reed. Decent delivery. I think that came off Xerxes. It's been cleared to the edge of the area. Oh, and it's in. No, it's in the post. It is in. And it's a Leicester City goal by Bilal Al-Khanous. Struck firmly, struck sweetly off the right post. It went across the goal line and just snuck in to the corner of the net. And Leicester immediately bring themselves back into this game with a super strike from Bilal Al-Khanous. Bruno Fernandes to the left as we look, and it's through the wall and in. And immediately after Leicester get themselves in it, Bruno Fernandes, the Manchester United skipper, has fired a powerful free kick through the Leicester City wall. Darlow has come back to the corner of the box far side. Rashford's cross off the post. Casemiro scores. It was his header. It came off the post, almost like the Al-Khanous goal where it rolled across the line. This time didn't go over until it came back to the Brazilian from close range, left-footed, into the roof of the net. Luke Thomas will take, curling to the far side. It was a decent delivery and it's dropped for Conor Cody. Leicester backing it again. Conor Cody with his first Leicester goal. 6 yards out, just strokes it home from close range. And is that the Leicester hope in injury time at the end of the first half? It's Manchester United 4, Leicester City 2. As Manchester United try and come forward with Bruno Fernandes to Rashford, the 1-2. Or the back pass from Macaulay. He's under hit. Bruno Fernandes around Danny Ward and can't miss. A goal gifted to Manchester United for their 5th of the night. Bruno Fernandes claims his 2nd. It's brilliant skill in the way he went around Danny Ward and took the time to get to the goal line before slamming it home.
Jerry, you were at Old Trafford as Leicester crashed out of the Carabao Cup. But a strange game, wasn't it? It's fair to describe it as that.
Yeah, I think with the ball in possession, I thought Leicester were very good, especially at the beginning of that second half. And, could have very easily, drawn another goal back. And you always say, at half time, when you, all right, they're 4-2 down, but they're still in it. You're still thinking there's something. And the next goal is massive in a game because if Leicester get that next goal, then the crowd go quiet. Man, you go back on the back foot. They get a little bit nervy. And Al-Khanous in that second half, beginning of that second half, was running the show.
Buoyed by this goal as well, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Absolutely running the show. But yet again, there's just too many mistakes in the back line.
There's too many poor goals, aren't there? Man United have not had to work too hard to get some of these goals. You know what I mean? You see the one was a deflection, but Casemiro with the first one, nobody's closing the ball down. Sort of, I think was it James Justin sort of turns his head a little bit, which deflects for the fourth.
And then balls don't hurt.
Yeah, no.
They don't.
Back in the day when we used to hit them.
But I promise you, they're that light these days. They just do not hurt. But so Larry's absolutely spot on. Too many soft goals where, man, you haven't really had to work that hard to get on the score sheet.
It was never going to be an easy game, given Ruud Nistelrooy was taking over and there was this bit of atmosphere where if it had been the week before when Ten Hag was there, I think there'd have been a little bit different atmosphere. But even saying that, no, you've still got to put on a better performance. But what you'll try and do from that defeat will be the positives of individuals, and a few sort of have played their way into maybe Steve's thoughts on a more regular basis. So you've got to draw the positives, but there's still the negatives that need to work on that are going to make the team better for the rest of the season.
And that's what I was going to finish on, was going forward. Some really good stuff there. Some real positives to take out of that performance going forward on Wednesday night. Al-Khanous, Bouba Samari, another one, who, looked like a really good player. And we haven't seen a lot of that. We've only seen fits and starts from Bouba, but the other night I thought he was excellent.
Are you surprised that neither of those are in the 11 today, or do you get it?
I get it. I think, if you're going to start Harry Winks, and you need someone alongside him who's a bit more robust. So I get that. But there's an opportunity for the likes of Al-Khanous and Bouba Samari to then come on, seeing what Steve Cooper will do is see how the game pans out. And he's got that firepower then on the bench to come on and hopefully change things one way or the other, depending on how the game's going.
I think when you look at sort of if the players have played really well the other night, they'll be disappointed that they've maybe not started today. But then they've got to make sure that when they get the chance this afternoon that they come and impact the game how Steve will want them to do and how they should do as subs. Their job description is to do that. You've got to make sure you're not sulking. You make sure you're not sort of moping around. You've got to sort of get ready to come onto that pitch and affect it, either to change the game round or to see it out or keep the momentum going. That's the ingredients of a good substitution.
Yeah, well, actually, last time out in the Premier League away from home, Southampton, it was the substitutes that changed that game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Winks coming on.
Winks.
Fatawu coming on. Jordan Ayew obviously got the winner there, didn't he? So subs can make a difference, and Leicester have those options on the bench.
Well, they do, and you've just said Winks and Fatawu. They're both now in the last couple of games started because they've affected the game, and that's how football is and how us coaches work. And you have to be ready at any particular time, and the strength in depth is a big part. But Steve will have looked again at the team and thought, we're playing Ipswich, we can get out of them, and the front four is probably as good as Steve's got ready to put out at this moment in time, but knowing he's still got sort of the options available. And they've got to draw from the confidence of coming back from 2-0 down at Southampton. Yes, we've had a difficult week, but some of the performances, some of the attacking play, the goals, it's away from home. The pressure will be on Ipswich today. They're the home team. I've read some things, people are saying that, yeah, this is a must-win game for Ipswich. So that can add to the extra pressure that if Leicester are solid, they can hit them on the counter-attack without sitting back and waiting for the counter-attack, but waiting for them opportunities rather than going gung-ho, opening the game up. And Ipswich have been decent going forward, to be fair. So yeah, there's some good options for Leicester today.
Yeah, and going back to the, you're talking about the substitute options with El Khanous and Bouba Samari putting in good performances. It just gives the manager a little bit of a, less of a headache, from who he has to choose. So he'll have taken those positive performances out of the game against Manchester United midweek and gone, right, bang, these two are on the bench. And if we're not doing it, if the guys on the pitch aren't performing to the level he expects, then he's not like scratching his head looking around going, who am I going to put on? He knows, El Khanous, you get on and do a job for me. He knows because of what he did on Wednesday night. He's more up to speed with the pace of the game. And the same with Bouba Samari. Go and replicate that performance on Wednesday night. And then it's down to them two or whoever else comes on to make sure they're ready to go.
You're 100% right, because as a manager, you're sometimes thinking, right, I'm going to make my substitutions, and then if somebody's not affected the previous game, you'll be going, who am I putting on?
Correct.
But without even thinking about it, Steve now knows he's got 2 or 3 players without even looking around to see who's on his bench, that he's going, right, I'm ready to get these 2 or 3 players on. I know they're ready. They've made an impact in the previous game, and they're ready to go and affect the game today, if and when required.
Absolutely, and one of those particularly we are concentrating on Bilal El Khanous because of that performance in the second half against Manchester United. He'll be disappointed he's not in, but actually, you look at the number 10 today, or the player in that position, Facundo Buonanotte has been one of Leicester's brightest sparks so far this season.
Exactly, and we didn't mention that you can't really drop Buonanotte for El Khanous at this moment in time, or could you fit him in somewhere else on the pitch? The answer again is no. Fatawu's done well, especially against Southampton, and obviously Mavropanos played his part as well. So, that's a pretty solid front four at the minute. But the guys who are starting now are under pressure to make sure that they go out and perform, because they will have seen the performance of El Khanous against Man United and thinking, right, I need to be right on it because this guy, he's ready to come in now. He's up the pace with the speed of the English game. As I said, he was running the show on in the beginning of that second half, especially where Man United players couldn't get anywhere near him at all. He was just too quick thinking. His technical ability is right up there as well. He's got his goal. He hit the post against Southampton, which he was unfortunate against. But it looks like I'm not saying that it looks like the penny has dropped. That's a bit too harsh on him. But it looks like he's finally.
Well, it takes time.
It did, absolutely, but it looks like he's finally got up the pace.
Well, he's still a young kid, isn't he, as well? What is he, 19, I think? And it's never easy to come into a new club and a new scenario, new situation, patterns of play. So it still takes time to do it. And the longer the season goes, I think he'll get even better because he's young, he's hungry, he's come from a good background at Brighton because they produce some really good players. And Leicester have been really lucky to get this kid, to be fair.
Yeah, he's a bright spot.
And he'll be learning day in, day out from the coaching staff, but also on a game-by-game basis as well. So, yeah, it's just nice to have them young, hungry players and competition for places.
He cares, Jerry, doesn't he?
Who, Beninato?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a proper bright spark. You know, he's one of those players. Yes, you know, we were just talking earlier. He's got a bit to learn as well, which is fine. You know, when to release the ball, and where to release the ball, and where to keep a hold of it. But you have to say overall that as a forward player, you know, his feet are unreal at times as well. And he's one of those players where he doesn't get fazed by disappointment. He's up and at him and he's back and he's at it again.
But he also looks like one of them players that he can make something happen out of nothing.
Absolutely.
Well, this goal was case in point, really, wasn't it, against Bournemouth? He picks it up there, and okay, it's a half decent opportunity, but look what he does with it.
Yeah, look, he gets into the box, drops a shoulder, and then fantastic finish as well. And you need players like that that even if a game's on a fine balance, like this game against Bournemouth, wasn't it 0-0?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you got somebody that got that extra little bit of spark, a little bit of magic that can be the difference between drawing a game and winning the game, and that's huge today. If it's 0-0 going into the last 10, 15 minutes and this kid's still on, and he'll have the confidence and the belief that he can still go and win the game, and Steve will still have the confidence that he can do it because he's shown that ability that he's so far this season for the team.
Yeah, let's hear from that man then, Steve Cooper. He's been speaking to the media ahead of this game with Ipswich, of course. Both these sides were rivals as they came up from the Championship last season. Ipswich, though, yet to win at the start of this Premier League season. And Steve Cooper was asked how damaging it would be if Leicester did give them that first victory today.
Well, I don't want any team to get a positive result against us. You know, that's for sure, regardless of what recent form is of any team. But yeah, no, aware of that. But that's not for us to be concerned about. We're concerned about, like I said, our preparation now as we stand and going into what will be a good game to play in. You know, focusing on a performance that can get the result that we want. You know, we want to get our third win. And there's a big determination to do that.
And looking at the table, which perhaps we do more than you do, but it feels like a very significant game already. How do you see it?
I think they are all significant because whoever you're playing, you get a win, and you know it can make such a difference, as we've seen with the two wins that we've got already. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but you know, 3 points is 3 points, and you've got to give everything to get that next one, whoever you're playing, and that's always going to be the objective. The first objective is to get a win in a game that you play, and this is one that we're looking forward to going down to Ipswich and playing for sure, because you know we really want to get that third win. We're determined to do it, and like I said, the game's going to come around quick, but in some ways, I think that could be a positive thing as well.
The two games between the two sides last year were very tight. I know you weren't here, but
no, I've seen it. Yeah, no, I believe that though. Yeah, yeah.
What are you expecting?
Well, Ipswich have been on a constant rise for the last couple of years with Kieran, and I think everybody has been following that in some way, shape, or form. Or like I said, over the couple of years, and that now they're playing their trade in the Premier League, and obviously, you know, both teams got promoted last year, and by getting promoted, you can create sort of big games when you play against them because of where you are in the league table. But you know, that was last season. You know, some things are the same at both clubs, some things are different, and what is always different is the timing of a game because of what might have happened, you know, in the build-up with previous games, etc. So yeah, all of that adds good context to the game. All of that sort of adds to the motivation for both teams. But we're very much focused on ourselves, and as I said, like looking forward to playing again. You know, it's we knew it was going to be you know, a quick turnaround. There's no problem with that. I think we've got to thrive off these, you know, little challenges. I don't see it as a disadvantage, you know, because you know, you've got to be able to deal with all of these things, and it's a good chance to show you know, that we can adapt to anything that comes our way. So yeah, let's get down there, let's get playing.
That was Steve Cooper there, speaking ahead of the game with Ipswich earlier in the week, and he wants to go there and play. And we were talking before we came on air, Jerry, about Leicester maybe it's the reason we see Vestergaard in. Could they expect to see more of the ball than they have done in other games so far in the Premier League?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly. And obviously they know each other inside out, obviously from what happened last year. And maybe it's time for Yannick to come back in as well, because he hasn't had much of a look in this season. And he will bring that control on the ball. And he has a good relationship with the likes of Winks and Ricardo. He was pivotal last year in setting the players up between Winks and Ricardo coming in off the line. So maybe that's a thought that's come into Steve Cooper's mind about making sure that we can control the ball for as long as possible. And in a away game against a team that are, having a bit of a struggle themselves.
Okay, it's one of them situations as well that the boy's got a point to prove to the manager as well. He's not played for a long time, so he's going into the team today to make sure that he cements his place in the team for probably the rest of the season, because he's probably been used to playing first team football, not being happy about not playing recently. So he's got a point to prove, and hopefully that will spur him on even more. Hopefully brings that expertise and that sort of experience to the dressing room as well as on the pitch to some of the younger players around him. So yeah, I think Steve's obviously seen some things in training that has decided that it's the right time to bring him back in.
And if we do see Ricardo moving into that midfield position, then presumably that then becomes a 3, doesn't it? Christensen slotting in as more of a third centre half, and you can see him fulfilling that role pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what Christensen does well, he covers well. Positionally, he's alert. He knows where he should be and when he should be in those positions. So that will then give Ricardo and Winks. And I think, against Forest, when Ricardo started, straight away he was going in there. And the link-up play between Winks and Ricardo was excellent, especially in the first half. I think they got the move going, or they were both involved in that move for Jamie Vardy's equalising goal in that first half, if memory serves me right. But definitely on a few occasions, there was sweeping moves, and them two were pivotal.
Winks certainly, yeah.
Yeah, Winks certainly. And then obviously when you bring Vestergaard in alongside that, he's the one that gives you that control at the back, knows when to play those little 3, 4, 5 yard passes. They get it back to then go to Ricardo or Winks, bang, right, we're on the front foot and we're moving forward now.
Yeah, it'll be all the patterns of play that Steve's worked on for the last few weeks. It'll be looking to play from the back. And if you're going to play from the back, you need good footballers to maintain them sort of your style of play and your phases of play. So, yeah, I think the one thing Leicester got to be careful of is that don't sort of try and be sort of defend too deeply and invite pressure on, because Ipswich are probably going to come out really quickly this first 15, 20 minutes. They're trying to build the pressure, get the momentum of the crowd behind them. Leicester's just got to make sure they get through that first 10, 15 minutes, impose themselves. And sometimes by having the ball, you're imposing yourself on the game, but also you're actually taking the sting out of the game if you can get possession. So any overloads in the middle of the pitch, Winks and Ricardo, will help take the sting out of that first 10, 15 minutes, where Ipswich is certainly going to be coming out flying, because they will be looking at this as a massive opportunity to try and get their first win. And Leicester have got to be aware of that.
Well, they would have watched the Forest game here last week, Ipswich, and the first goal of the second half, Forest's second goal, but first goal of the second half, where Leicester were in possession of the ball, potential counter-attack for Leicester, and then Forest just pressed them. They concede possession, and then Chris Wood scores a real good goal. So they'll watch that, and they will know that Leicester on occasion will look to try and play it out from the back. So they've got to be really careful about that today, Leicester.
The big message today will be from both coaches will be get at each other's back forwards.
Yeah.
Because it's not rocket science to see the number of goals scored and conceded against from both teams. So both Steve will say, like, get at Ipswich, they conceded 3 last week. Kieran at Ipswich will be going, Leicester have not kept too many clean sheets, let's make sure we get at them. It is going to be the battle of who's going to defend the better and doesn't make the most mistakes.
If you're neutral, you've got this game on your coupon for both teams to score.
You're going to. It's a 0-0 now, isn't it?
Well, hopefully not, because Matt Elliott has made the long trip down to Suffolk for the game this afternoon. 8 of Leicester's 9 games this season have seen both teams score. Only Manchester City and Leicester are the only 2 teams that have scored in every Premier League game so far this season. So hopefully, Matt, that trend continues with Leicester scoring. If they can keep their second clean sheet of the season as well, fingers crossed, they will then get the 3 points, of course. Good afternoon to you, by the way.
Afternoon, Batesy, Larry, Gerald. Good afternoon to you all. Yes, you would envisage that there's goals. And I listened to the boys talking there, and pretty much go along with everything that's been mentioned. Defences are having a tough time of it, and certainly in Leicester's case, they tend to score more often, vastly more often than not. But and whenever I've seen Ipswich, they're always quite an energetic, vibrant team, really, particularly at home. They get the backing from their supporters, who are pretty partisan in this part of the world. And I'm just looking through the squad. I mean, you do it every week, don't you? I mean, on Leicester's front as well. The boys have mentioned there are options on the bench, but plenty for Ipswich too. For players to come on later in the game and affect things. And there's for 2 recently promoted sides, there's a fair bit of quality flying around, a little bit of mix of experience from Ipswich's point of view. Calvin Phillips in there. I know he's relatively young, with Johnson slotting in from West Ham, wasn't it, I think. And just looking at Ipswich, they're quite buoyant. They don't look a team who are shy or short of confidence. They're here for the challenge, and whatever that may bring, I think they're going to offer the best they've got. Apparently they were decent last week against Brentford, weren't they, in a pulsating game. So Leicester are going to have their hands full, but Leicester know that against any opposition in the Premier League. We know it's going to be a bit of a grind maybe this season, but Leicester have their fair share of quality as well, and be interesting to see how this game develops with. And I've heard the boys mention there about Vestergaard coming in. One, does that mean Leicester are going to try and have more possession and play and have control of the game as best they can? But also, are they going to sit that little bit deeper, because it's rather than press him, because the best will in the world, Vestergaard doesn't have the best pace statistics, for want of a better phrase, and it might affect a little bit how Leicester play, but we'll have to wait and see how things unfold.
Yeah, who do you think the pressure is on most today, Matt? Ipswich or Leicester? Because you look at Ipswich's next few games, they've got Tottenham away, Manchester United at home, then Forest away. There's a tough little run coming up. Again, they're still looking for that first win of the season. Yeah,
well, on the face of it, you would quite clearly say Ipswich, wouldn't you? With a minimal points tally and new to this level, and in the end, it can become a sort of a bit of a desperate situation. But probably in their own way, Ipswich. Leicester have a 5-point advantage at the moment, and everything's. It's still early enough in the season, even though it's basically a quarter of the season gone. It's early enough for things to be changeable very quickly, isn't it? A couple of wins on the trot puts you up eight places. Can do. Conversely, the opposite can happen as well at the moment. But listen, every manager, every week, every player, they're all under pressure to certain levels anyway. And I think they're better at dealing it than most people are given credit for. But certainly Ipswich are going to be. I mean, if you look at it, this could be. You go through different phases of the season, don't you? But Leicester, what we're talking now, 5 points clear. If they will win today, 8 points, like double what it's taken Ipswich to get in 10 games. Difference. It could be huge come the end of the season, even already at this stage. So more pressure on Ipswich.
Hi Matt, it's Gerald here.
Hello, big boy.
All right, just a couple of things from me. Just your thoughts really on Vestergaard coming in over Coley.
Yeah, I thought that might be something that was put to me or debated this afternoon, and I think, if I'm honest, I can see the reasons why. Like Coley seems to, from what I would gather, I think he's done reasonably well. I think he's got a lot of, we've mentioned it before, a lot of important attributes of a centre half. Something me, you, and Larry to a certain degree lacked. Although it might be a bit harsh, Simon, on you there.
Don't bring Larry into this.
It's a lack of pace. Although you could stride a bit in your youth, Gerald, but the injuries took their toll, son, didn't they? But I never was blessed with that, so I had to make do with other facets of the game. But yeah, I mean, he's an athlete, isn't he? He's strong, and perhaps sometimes when you've got those basic attributes in such amount, sometimes you don't concentrate on other areas, maybe a little bit positioning and the reading of the game and what have you. But he's young, isn't he? He's young, and I think he's probably been thrown in at the deep end a little bit. I don't think, well, he didn't start, did he, the season? And I don't think he was expected to play so many games so quickly. And probably the manager didn't even think that was going to be the case, but probably time for a rest, maybe, for a break, yeah, maybe. But I mean, there would be an argument, and I don't want to be too harsh on individuals, but, well, Faz hasn't covered himself in glory all the time either. But I suppose his experience got him the nod. And Vestergaard, he's pretty reliable, isn't he? He can play without a doubt. He has a presence, although not as much as I would think he would. For the size of him, he's an absolute giant, isn't he, when you come up close against him. But hopefully he's not feeling the effects of not having a lot of game time as well, because, I mean, Conor Cody's suffered from that a little bit, I think. And I know he played in the internationals, didn't he, Vestergaard? But it's a big ask, because this is going to be a pretty lively affair, I think. I think it's going to, Ipswich is going to go for it. Leicester need to be on their toes today, and Vestergaard in particular.
And lastly, Matt, just the usual one. On the food front, can Ipswich top my KFC at MUFC?
No, I have to say, Gerald, I was going to say mildly, but extremely disappointed. Not necessarily with the quality, but the quantity. Despite me being on my hands and knees begging to the lady behind the kiosk or where the food was, I said, look, it's been a long journey. I'm starving. I've traipsed 3 hours down here. It was only 2.5 anyway, but it was like, and I think I messed up when I said, because I think she cooked it, and I went, oh, chicken curry, is it? She went, no, it's stroganoff. I was like, all right, okay, like that is. So she only gave me kids' portions, but luckily, Gerald, actually, I filled myself up with a bowl of watermelon, which I'm worried I might have allergic reaction to in a minute, because it's far too healthy. But I filled myself up last night because, as you haven't mentioned, it was my birthday yesterday. I was about
to say, Matt, don't worry.
I thought he was in good form today.
So I was out with my sons, Ron and Reg, last night, and they took me for a Turkish. So I'm nicely roundly full. Thank you very much.
Very nice. Yes, I was going to say right at the very end, Matt. Many happy returns, and another year older. But
I know you sent me a little message, Batesy. Much appreciated. Poor show from you, Gerald.
Yeah, I forgot.
I'll let you off, Larry.
I forgot. Sorry, buddy.
Oh dear. Right, let's say goodbye to Matt now then, before it gets any worse. Right, Matt. Thank you very much. We'll hear from you on co-commentary duty in just over 15 minutes. Let's though get a reminder of today's team news. Then starting, of course, with Leicester City and Steve Cooper's side. I guess the headlines really are in defence, aren't they? Ricardo and Vestergaard both starting. Christensen comes back after missing the Forest game through injury. It's Hermansson in goal, Christensen, Fass, Vestergaard and Ricardo. Winkson and Didi in midfield, with Mavididi, Buonanotte and Abdul Fatawu in support of the main man, Jamie Vardy. From an Ipswich Town point of view, Kieran McKenna and his side still looking for their first win of the season. There are a number of doubts about a number of players, particularly in the right-back position. They, at one point, thought they were going to be without 3 of their senior right-backs. Ben Johnson, though, does pass a late fitness test. They've got Muric in goal, Davis, Burgess, O'Shea and Johnson across the back four. Morsey and Calvin Phillips in midfield, with Smodics, Chaplin and Hutchinson supporting Liam Delap, who Jerry rightly says scored against the Foxes in a Hull win here at King Power Stadium last season. Hopefully we don't see a repeat of that. Right, a couple of minutes before we hand back to the commentary team of Chris and Matt, Steve Cooper won't be on the touchline. He serves a touchline ban today. as a manager yourself, I'm sure maybe you might have served the odd touchline ban in your time.
Possibly.
In your, what was it, 800 games? There had to be at least one that you watched from the stands. How much of a difference does that make? Will that make, do you think, in your experience?
Sometimes it can give you a different perspective looking at the game. So he'll watch it up in the director's area. He'll have a feed through to the assistants on the bench. It might give him a different viewpoint of what he can see in the game. So it might actually give him a little bit of a opportunity to think, well, I can send this message down, we can do this, we can do that. Once a game starts, there's very little really that the manager can impose himself on the game, because being there as a manager, the crowd take over, you're trying to get a message on, there's nothing happening. And players are very good at sometimes when you wanted to criticise them, they sort of can't hear you, deliberately doing that. So, I think in a way it might help in terms of just his vision of what's going off in the game and get a few points across. Look, it's just one of them things, and yellow cards come quite frequently compared to in the past. But it'll be interesting what his final message is going to be today, that he's going to make sure that the deal with the first 10, 15 minutes. I look at that Ipswich team and it's very championship-based players. Lots of players that are in that team played last year, and even the ones who recruited, Smodix, Calvin Phillips obviously played a lot of championship football, Jack Clark. So it is very British orientated as a team, but also championship-based careers really, and they'll be feeling the pressure because they've not won a game yet. So you've got to make sure that you can transmit that pressure from the supporters onto the players, and then you can hopefully take advantage of it. Yeah,
I think going back to Larry's first point, there was a trend, wasn't there, about 15, 20 years ago where managers...
Sam Allardyce,
McLaren used to do it as well. They used to go and sit up in the director's box and watch a game from there. I think the most important thing, going back to Larry's point, is any messages that the manager is sending down from the director's box to the bench, they have to make sure that those messages get onto the pitch. And then the manager hopefully can see that change happen, because that would be the most frustrating thing. Say for Steve Cooper sitting in the director's box, if he's sending down message and saying, get this on to Mavididi or to Buonanotte, and then he's not seeing that response, that's where the half-time team talk, let's say, or the full-time team talk can become a little bit strained or frustrating.
Well, this is where the trust in his assistants and the first-team coaches have got to be. And they'll be aware of what Steve's wanting them to do, because they've done all the work, they've done the patterns. Going back to my career, I was stayed downstairs on a touchline, but I always had somebody upstairs relaying any messages across, because you can see a different perspective. But as Jerry mentioned there, the biggest thing is that any messages he sees has to get transmitted onto the pitch, or else it could be a difficult afternoon.
Yeah, well, it did work for Nuno Espirito Santo, didn't it, at King Power Stadium last Friday. He was serving a touchline ban. It worked for them. They got the 3 points. Hopefully, we see a repeat of that. Leicester getting the 3 points away from home with their manager in the stands today. Thank you to Simon Grayson, to Jerry Taggart. We'll hear from them again, of course, at half-time and then again at full-time. It is indeed now, though, time to hand you over to our commentary team for this afternoon. We've already heard from birthday boy Matt Elliott. He is alongside Chris Parrott on commentary duty for this huge game for the Foxes down at Portland Road. We've got full commentary coming up next.
Today's birthday.